Well, now to a story that's not exactly new. In fact, it's been going for about 500 years, but history just keeps on repeating itself. There are now at least 30 unauthorised travellers and gypsy camps here in the Midlands alone. Villagers at Meriden in Warwickshire have set up a blockade to try to halt a development on a site owned by a group of gypsies. Before the election, the Conservatives pledged a new policy blueprint to tackle what they said was the small minority of travellers occupying illegal, unauthorised sites, and now intentional trespass, they said, would become a criminal offence and planning rules would be tightened up. Well, Joan Cummins now joins us live from Meriden. Joan, are there any signs yet that that coalition is about to make good on that pledge to get tough?
Well, not quite, I think, is the honest answer there, Patrick. The new Secretary of State, Eric Pickles, has said that he does want to make stronger laws available to local authorities to stop unauthorised development. And he's also said that he wants a fairer system for everyone. And he says this is what the public also want. Now, back in March this year, the Regional Spatial Strategy, the Housing Blueprint, said that there was a need for thousands of extra pitches for travellers and gypsies in the West Midlands alone. But the new coalition government has actually said they're going to be getting rid of that spatial strategy. So where does that leave us? And does it actually leave us with repeat scenes like those in Meriden across the country?
A burning caravan, the symbol of the end of a 3-year legal battle with planners and travellers at Bulkington in Warwickshire. Families bought the land but failed to get permission to develop it. They were eventually evicted. 4 years on, and another group of families used the Easter bank holiday to develop land near Shipston-on-Stour. After the initial upset from local residents, the families have secured temporary planning permission. And perhaps a surprising view from the former town mayor, they're valued by the local community.
If I broach the subject to anybody, the first thing they say is about no planning permission. But apart from that, they have no problems in town. We don't have any problems in town. They spend quite a bit of money in town on various shopping, which must do the town some good.
There are currently around 1,300 pitches for travellers, gypsies and show people in the West Midlands.
The housing blueprint for the region, the Regional Spatial Strategy, suggested that by 2012 there should be another 660 pitches. But the new coalition government has said that they're getting rid of regional spatial strategies, just adding to the confusion as to what happens next.
But it's a paddock at Meriden that's re-inflamed passions about unauthorised developments. Residents were so outraged by the arrival of gypsies starting development over the last bank holiday that they blockaded the entrance and have been maintaining a 24-hour vigil. There's now an injunction preventing further development until the completion of the planning process. The owner of the site gave an interview to the Travellers Times explaining why he'd moved onto the greenfield site.
I'm prepared to fight the council, right? We're all prepared to do that. That's the chance you take, right? Right? Not breaking the law, you're fighting the council, right? But then to have the amount of hatred. Do you know what I mean? Just a full village. And you think, am I that disliked?
Residents insist this is a greenbelt issue. They've signed petitions and written complaints and have the support of the constituency MP, Caroline Spellman, who insists planning policies need to be enforced.
There needs to be a balance between residents who are settled in their community, that understand what planning law says about development and respect that, but also recognition that travellers do need authorised sites where they can live and where they can move to. So it's getting that balance right, but I think it is important that planning law is not flouted but is respected.
Away from the barricades, residents in Meriden deny they have anything personally against the travelling community, but want everyone to abide by the same planning regulations.
I do believe that the people's feelings should all be considered, including, in our case, the travelling, the gypsies. Their feelings should be taken into account, but it's the way they've gone about it in this case that shows the planning laws have been walked over completely. Whereas if it was a fairer system, I think they would have obeyed the law and we probably wouldn't be in this mess.
With bank holidays traditionally a time when developments begin, the government has this weekend written to all local authority planning officers, urging them to be on call, ready to deal with last-minute applications and prepared to take action against unauthorised developments.
Now, I am at Camp Nancy, which is at the entrance to this unauthorised development, and I'm joined today by David McGrath from the residents and by Shay Clipson, who's acting as an advocate for the gypsies here on the site. Shay, can I ask you first, the family who have moved in here have broken planning regulations. They've moved into the green belt, and that is wrong, isn't it?
2 points there. The planning regulations are very steeped against our community. Most gypsy people who try and get planning permission for a site, no matter how good and how compatible with the environment the site is, will be turned down. And that involves us having to litigate at personal expense. As for the green belt issue, I dispute that it is a green belt issue. I see all the banners around here now emphasising the green belt, but I would like to say that in the first 3 days, when the protesters were here, the green belt issue was not mentioned. I have reports here where 6 different people commented to the media. One was the MP, Caroline Spellman.
What were they saying? Were they saying it wasn't a green belt, or were they saying it was a gypsy issue?
They mentioned the green belt. As I was saying, Caroline Spellman commented twice. Parish councillor commented once, and a local farmer commented twice, and 3 other people who didn't want to be named. And the content of the comments that they made in the media were racist. Granted, Caroline Spielman didn't make racist remarks, but when she spoke about planning laws, she directed her comments only to gypsies and travellers, not to everybody.
OK, I mean, David, this is the whole sort of argument, isn't it? Is it a green belt issue, or is it simply a sort of a NIMBYism issue? You know, we don't want them in our backyard.
Well, I can tell you this is most definitely a green belt issue. It's not an anti-gypsy issue. We're standing here in a designated wildlife centre. This is part of the strategically important green buffer zone between Coventry and Solihull and Birmingham. So it's a green belt issue for us. We feel passionate about this. People at the same time judge people not by where they come from, what their ancestry is, what their culture is, but what they actually do. And what the developers have done here is inflicted on this community shock and awe tactics to desecrate Greenbelt. They've done it irrespective of the feelings of local people, and they've manipulated planning regulations to get their way here. Now,
but they wouldn't have got planning permission anyway, would they, if they'd asked for it?
Definitely not. I have 7 acres of land here, and I wouldn't get planning permission for that. So what's fair for me is also fair for other people. But I'm not going to set about bringing land diggers into the area just to try and force my will on the local people. OK,
now the government have said they're going to get tough. We're running out of time. Shay, can I ask you, what should the government actually be doing to stop these sort of issues?
I think the government should be more sympathetic, and also I would just like briefly to come back to some comments on here. One comment from a local farmer: we don't want them here. It's as simple as that.
OK, but I think David has said that that's not the view of everybody here. But let me just, because of time, I'm going to have to say, and David, what do you think should now happen?
Well, I think local authorities do have to redouble their provision, but also I think the gypsy and traveller community need to refocus their efforts, not buy and waste money, millions of pounds of money on buying land that they can't develop, but instead put it into engaging with people, planners and politicians.
OK, well, hopefully here that we might be able to say that Meriden is actually going to be a way forward, that both sides will now come together and find a solution. It's easily recognised that there isn't enough pitches, so where are the travelling communities supposed to go? Something that the government is going to have to tackle.